Hey guys, this is David Wells with Inbound Now, and I'm going to show you guys how to take a static HTML file, a landing page design that you may have already created or are creating, and implement that into the WordPress landing page tool. And if you haven't checked out the WordPress landing page tool yet, I definitely recommend doing that. Basically what it'll allow you to do is enable any page that's a landing page template to monitor conversion rates on the landing page, run A/B split tests, and give your users the ability, or your clients the ability, to manage the design and changes on their end. And we built the plugin to be a framework for developers and designers, so you didn't have to implement your own testing system on the pages that you design and what have you. So let's get started. So this is my landing page design that I have right now. It's a basic YouTube video landing page where the client or user is going to insert a promo video, and we're going to add in some options for that in this video. They add in a form below it, and that's pretty much it, and specify the headline, and we're actually going to add in some background options as well. But right now, what the file looks like, it's just a static HTML file. And we have all of our CSS designed at the top. We're going to move that into a CSS file. And then the body and the markup. So it's a very simple landing page. And I'm going to show you how to implement the different options and what have you to actually make it so the user can go in, edit, and tweak all these things through the admin interface. So first things first, what we want to do is actually get the folder of our template set up in the proper way. So what we're going to need is a new folder. We're going to call it Assets. This is where we're going to put all of our CSS or JavaScript if we have any. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder for CSS. And there are a couple other things that we need to add in. Just a quick side note, if you want a good example of what the file and folder structure should be for a landing page template, you can go ahead and go into the plugin, under plugins, head into the landing pages plugin, and then under templates, what we've done is created a demo template for designers and developers to go in, see what the file structure looks like, and how the files are actually configured and what have you. The demo template also includes all the available configuration options. So it's a really good reference point, and it's really well marked up as well to tell you exactly what does what. So I'm actually going to download the demo template, and we're going to work with it side by side so we can walk through each piece of the tool and talk about how to implement these in your designs. So if you go ahead and open the demo template, you can actually see the file structure that every template follows. And the two files that you're going to need in the base folder is the index.php, which is going to be the file that we're working with, what that'll turn into, just changing the extension to .php so it'll work inside of WordPress, and the config.php file. And the config.php file does a number of different things. It specifies the name of the template and gives the users the option in the WordPress interface. And what I mean by options in the interface is the actual meta boxes that users are going to input their data and change the different values on to customize your landing page template. And then we have the thumbnail. The thumbnail is actually what populates the view. So when a user adds a new landing page, the thumbnail is going to populate here. So you want to make sure that you create a thumbnail image. Typically they're 300 pixels in width. You can take a look at any of the other thumbnails to get the correct dimensions. The next piece in the template folder is the assets folder. The assets folder is simply where you're going to house all of your CSS images and JavaScript that the template uses. So now that we know the basic file structure, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy all these files and drop them into my YouTube landing page template folder. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that empty assets folder. So now I have my file structure and my config files and what have you. We're going to need to edit these, and we're actually going to need to replace the index.php file, but we'll walk through that step by step. This is really just a shortcut to get our file structure set up properly, so I don't have to make all the files. So now that we have the file structure pretty much set up, I'm going to go ahead and open the entire project folder. So in my Finder, or if you're on Windows, just go ahead and open that folder. If you're not using Sublime Text 2, I highly recommend it. Basically, what you can do is drag a folder and it'll open up all the files, so it's very, very quick and easy to toggle back and forth between the different options. Awesome tool. Anyways, so now that we have the project open, we have our HTML that we started out with, and this is the demo index.php. What I'm actually going to do is rename this file to index-demo so we don't get confused in this here. And we'll keep that as a reference point for now. So now we have the index demo, index.html. I'm actually going to change this file extension as well to index.php. So we're all good there. So our template environment is ready to go. The next step is really figuring out what options you want to define on your landing page. It's going to be very specific to each landing page. And depending on how much flexibility you want to give the users will depend on what options and what different meta boxes you give your different landing page users or clients. For this particular template, I'm actually going to keep it pretty simple. We're going to have a background option where they can toggle a full screen background image or have a solid background color. And that's pretty much it. The other option we'll give them is the ability to change the color of the submit button. The main heading, that'll be controlled by WordPress core functions. This YouTube box, I could add some custom functionality to it. I'm actually just going to keep that as the main content area for like regular WordPress pages. And then the form page is printed out by a landing page function that I'll show you as I'm building out this template. So just to reiterate, these are the different options that we're going to be defining in our config.php file. So background options, so there's a number of different ways to do that. We could do a drop-down meta box for them to select if they want a full screen image, solid color, patterned image background. And then the other meta boxes, they're just going to be simple color boxes. For complete documentation on the different meta box options that are currently available, if you go to plugins.inboundnow.com/docs/dev and go into creating templates, you can actually see the config.php file. It's all documented out on how to use it, and then there's the different fields and how to add the different field options for your templates. So again, for this template, we're going to be using a couple color pickers, and we're going to go ahead and go with the drop-down background. And for the background image, it's actually going to implement the file upload meta box. So I'm going to show you an example of this. So a really good jumping off point for a lot of templates. So a lot of the templates that we shipped with landing pages core basically have a ton of these options already configured, and you can actually go into the config.php files of those respective templates and implement those different options. So one that we spent a lot of time doing the background options for is actually the drop cap template. So if you go ahead and head in here, I'll show you what those options look like. So basically, and these are the same ones that we're going to implement on the YouTube landing page. So the drop-down setting that the meta box that I was talking about adding, basically it gives the option of a full screen background image, tile the background image for patterns and what have you, a solid color. If someone wants to repeat the image horizontally, repeat it vertically, and then custom CSS that they can just drop in their own custom code in the CSS box. And that's basically, and we're going to add in the background image and then the background color as well. So instead of recreating the wheel, I'm actually going to go into the landing pages template, go into dropcap, and go ahead and open the config.php file. I'll show you what the config.php file looks like. So there's a lot of settings at the top to define the name and what have you. Anything below the line, and it should be marked up in the template. These are what actually create those meta box areas. So just 2 lines of code will actually create all of the meta boxes. 2 or 3 lines of code will create all of the different meta boxes options that we want to implement. And I'm actually just going to copy all of the background settings from dropcap and drop them into the settings our config.php file. But before I do that, let's take a look through the config.php file that we copied from demo. And I just want to run through this to let you guys know what this file is all about. So the config.php file, at the top, you're going to want to specify your template name. You can put in your author information and what have you. You want to have the LP_global config function there. That'll actually hook into third-party extensions. And you can see a list of the different hooks, filters, and what have you in our docs. The landing page key, this is stuff that you don't want to really edit because it'll define the actual key when we're grabbing different metadata from the backend that users are inputting. The next is category. So the category you specify will determine what category your landing page shows up in this kind of sortable list. So you can define your own category or implement one that already exists. We're going to be working on standardizing those moving forward. The description of your template, that'll also show up in that splash page. If you have a demo link to your template, we'll probably create one if you submit your template to us. But if you want to go ahead and put a full qualified link here, you can go ahead and do that. And then any features your landing page might have. And that's pretty much all you would edit at the top of the config.php file. We specify that very clearly, edit start and edit end. The rest of the stuff you don't really want to touch except for your name up here. The part that you do want to touch though and mess around with is the adding in a meta box area. And that'll be below here, and we have a link to the docs as well, again, to specify how to create all the different meta box options. And in the demo config file that we copied over, there's an example of each specific type of meta box. So we have a text, single line text, text area box that's multi-lined, a color picker, radio select options, checkbox options, a drop down, a date picker, adding an additional what you see is what you get editors, and then a media upload button. So that's, uploading an image or a video or whatever asset you want people to upload into your specific templates. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just change this really quickly. So we're going to name this the YouTube template for the time being, and we'll keep it in miscellaneous. We'll keep this stuff. So this is the YouTube video lander features. We'll add in a demo link later, and we'll just keep that as it is right now and go ahead and save that in our files. And just a quick note on the meta box adding options. The syntax is basically the key, and that's going to be your unique key that we define for you. It's actually the template name. The type of meta box, so we have type or text area, etc. Next is the ID, and that's unique to each field. This is the actual default text that'll show in the editor if nothing is filled out by the user. This is the field label, and then the field description. And then for options that have multiple choices like a radio, checkbox, or drop down, you can see the options are actually in an array. So this is a good example here in the drop down. So we have 3 different drop-down options in this particular example. One's float right, one's float left, one's a default option. So that's how you would define those options. Again, this is all docked up in the template config section of our docs. Okay, so enough of going through the different options. Let's actually implement this stuff in the template that we are talking about, the YouTube lander. So what I'm gonna do is actually, you can keep these default options here and just change the values and copy and paste them. That's a really easy way to create meta boxes. I'm actually gonna go ahead and delete everything but one of the color pickers because we're gonna use that. So go ahead and delete everything in here. And there we go. So now if I were to save this and this was my template, the only option that I would have is a color picker in this particular template. But what I want to do is reuse some options that we wrote for another template. So what I'm going to do is go back into the dropcap config.php file that we have downloaded and go ahead and copy these options here. So, and we mark them up so you can reuse these in any template that you want. In the IDs, so the way that the IDs work, you don't have to specify a new ID for each template. You could use background-style on any template you want because of our keying system. It'll actually recognize that this is the dropcap template and put a dropcap dash in front of that ID. So don't worry about that. Just go ahead and copy these options. And we're going to paste these into our meta box field here. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And let's actually get this into our local development environment. So I'm going to go into the actual folder. I'm going to rename this to YouTube-lander. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that and go into my local development environment. So into WordPress, into WP content, into the plugins folder, and then into the landing pages folder, and into the templates folder finally. And here's all of our core templates. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in the YouTube-lander file. Should have been there in the first place. Don't know why I started the other way. And what you can see is our file structure set up exactly how we wanted it, and the new config file. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have so far in our local development environment. So if I go into the landing pages plugin and click add new, what you'll see is the YouTube lander has been added here. It's using our demo thumbnail. So again, you want to make sure that you take a screenshot of your final product or a screenshot before you start creating the template. Otherwise, it's going to get confusing real quickly to your users. But go ahead and select this one. And what we can see thus far is we have all of our background options here. So I'm just going to show you a quick example. If I were to remove any of those options. So let's go ahead and remove the top 3 meta boxes. So 1 is the drop down, 2 is the media uploader, and 3 is the color picker. I'm just going to cut those out real quick, save the template again. And then if we go back into the templates, I'm just going to click add new again because I didn't save the post, and select this template. What you'll see is, hey, now we only have this color picker option because that's the only one that we're defining in the template config.php file with the default hex color of white. But that's not what we want, so I'm going to go ahead and add in those options back in. If I save that, go ahead and update this post again, select our template, and boom, there's the options back again. Awesome. Cool. So what we want to do is finish up the config and the other options. So this is all controlling the background stuff that we specified. This is, and then the additional color picker is actually going to be the submit button color. So I'm just going to go ahead and change that ID very quickly, and we'll go ahead and change this to a green hex color. And the green hex color we will use is there we go. You want to make sure that you do not include the hex or the hash in front of it because it just uses the raw hex number. Then we're going to go ahead and update this label. So we'll go ahead and say submit button color, and we'll remove that, and we'll go ahead and add a description. This changes the submit button color. Cool, so now that those are updated, we'll go ahead and save and go back into our landing pages. I'm gonna go ahead and save this post. So this is the YouTube template. This is the admin user name, and then this is the main headline area. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and publish that. So now I can just refresh this page and not have to go back through that option again. What you can see is our default options have populated here. We don't have anything set for the default background image, and I'll show you why. That default option is actually empty right now. So what you'd want to do is specify the path to your template folder, and we'll do that a little bit later. And what you'll also notice is that the background setting right now is on full screen image. So we have the media uploader visible. So that's some custom jQuery we added into core for these particular settings. So that's why we recommend, if you do want to set up some background options, you can go ahead and copy and paste this stuff into your config file. And what it's going to do is give you that custom functionality. So if I select color, it's actually going to hide that image and just show the color picker. So that's kind of what we did there. We're going to implement those for a couple of reusable features moving forward. That's just to make it a little bit more user-friendly and not clutter up the user interface with too much stuff there. Okay, cool. So now we're done with our template config options for the time being. So what we're going to do now is start working on the index.php file, that raw HTML file that we started out with. So we created a tool to actually help you implement landing pages at a much quicker rate. And that tool is actually an index.php creator. And what you can do after you've defined all of your landing page options in your config.php file, if you want to copy your config.php file, drop it into the plugins.inboundnow.com/index creator, plug that in and generate the landing page.php. What it's going to do is generate the header for you. And what the header is doing is a number of things, and we'll go through those once I copy this code and paste it into my template. So let's go into your index.php file, and above the start of the HTML, we're just going to start a PHP tag and paste in our copied code and close that PHP tag. Cool. I'm going to save this. So what the generator did was actually define some necessary things that we need in our template and gave you a title up here to name your template, enter your author name, enter in an example URL or your website's URL. It's declaring template keys, so these are core to the plugin. You need these in the top of your index.php file to work. The next piece of the index.php file is the lp_init. That is also needed for your template to run. That runs any third-party extensions that run off of that hook. The next piece of the template is starting the regular WordPress loop. The next little bit is defining the metadata that we have specified in our config file. So the background-image, background-style, submit button-color. It's actually predefining those for you into variables that you can use and echo throughout the template. So, and here's some helpers. If you just want to copy and paste the echo helpers somewhere else in your template, you can do that. But let's say, for example, I wanted to echo out the background image in, let's say, the CSS, I can do that now. The other helpers that we generate for you are some if statements. These are really useful for radio buttons or drop downs. So you can say, you know, if show social media buttons is toggled on, then run some code or something. If you don't want to use this stuff, you can just go ahead and cut this stuff out of your template. A really great marked up example of the index.php file is actually the demo template. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the index-demo really quickly and show you guys what I mean. So again, it's showing you exactly how what this is doing, and then where it's defined in the config.php file of the demo. So very, very clear and concise on how to do that. But cool. So back to our template. So now that we have everything in our header defined, the next step is to actually implement some WordPress functionality into the template. For instance, like right now, the title tag is title capitalized. Really, we don't want that. We want to implement the core WordPress functionality. So I'm actually going to use PHP, the WordPress WP title. This will also help if they're using like the WordPress SEO plugin or something. It'll make sure that they can actually use that plugin on their landing pages. So you want to make sure that you try to use the WordPress core functionality, and we show you how to do that. Cool. So I'm actually going to clean up my styles as well. I'm going to drop all my styles into my style sheet. So I'm going to pause the video and do that real quick. So I'm going to go into Assets, CSS, into my style sheet. And there's nothing here, so I'm going to go ahead and paste in my styles. So now my styles are out of my index file, which was kind of cluttering it up. And now we have a nice, cleaner looking template. But we need to define that style sheet so they can actually find it. The way to do that is with just including a regular style sheet. And what we're going to do is echo a path. And that path is something that we defined up in the top of our template here. That's why it's very important to keep that in your file here. It's actually going to the specific folder where your template lives. And it's going into that assets folder, into the CSS directory, and pulling in that style sheet. We want to keep some additional style tags here, and that's where we're going to implement some of our design functionality in a little bit after we run through and add in all the other WordPress core functionality. The next bit is adding in the main title. So in the landing page that we're looking at, it has a main headline here. So what we want to do is actually use the WordPress _title, and that will use the title that the user specifies in the admin. The next bit that we want to do is actually, so the page wrap, and you can see, you know, all the different areas and what have you on how to create this stuff. So the page wrap is what holds our video right now. But what I'm going to do is actually replace that with another piece of core WordPress functionality, the _content. And what that's going to do is echo out the main content area in that specific spot. And then moving down the page, the next piece of functionality is actually the form. And this is what tracks conversion rates and what have you. So this is the default form that we just have in the template. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. This is just code I copied and pasted for the, for it to look correct. But now what we want to do is actually implement the form rendering tool, and that's LP_conversion_area function. And what that'll do is echo out the landing page conversion area that your user specifies. So the forms or links that people input into the landing page form or conversion area, that's actually going to render with the LP_conversion area function. Cool. And then the final bit here is, because we started a WordPress loop, we're going to want to end that loop as well. Otherwise, this page will fail and it will not load. So I'm going to go back into my demo here, and just go ahead and copy and paste this stuff in right before the close body tag. So this is the end while endif is ending the regular WordPress loop. An additional function that we've added in here is the LP_footer. Again, you're going to want to include this because it will run third-party landing page extensions, and you can actually run custom functions on it. Then we have the regular WordPress footer running, and you also want to make sure that you include that because a lot of Google Analytics plugins and what have you run on that. And if you don't load that, the user might not have, their Google Analytics code on that page, which would be not a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And let's go back into the template. So I'm going to go ahead and add in some content here. So this is the main content area. I'm going to go ahead and add in a form here, or just the word form. These settings, since we've specified them as variables in the template so far, but they're actually not doing anything. So we're going to do that in the next step. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and update this page, and let's take a look at what we have so far. Cool. So this is the page that we have thus far. Looks somewhat similar to what we started with. So let's go ahead and finish it up. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a form here. I'm using Gravity Forms. That's actually what we recommend as the form tool you use. You can actually use any form and the conversion tracking will working. So we're form agnostic as long as it's not an iframe, because we can't track what happens inside of an iframe unless it's on the same domain, which typically they're not. But yeah, so go ahead and add in a form there. I'm going to go ahead and add in my video to the main editor here. And then if we take a look at the page, you can see that everything looks just like what we started with in the static index.php file. So cool. So our landing page template has been implemented. One of the things to note, forms. So what we do, we actually parse forms no matter what form you're using, as long as it's, again, not an iframe. We parse the forms and wrap them in a new container and div class and what have you. So it's a LP_container, and then the actual form fields are wrapped in LP form field divs. And that's basically to standardize CSS across the board for whatever form users or clients are using. So whether it's MailChimp, Constant Contact, Gravity Forms, Contact Form 7, you name it, anything under the sun, we actually standardize that so your forms will print out correctly in your particular landing page. There is an option in global settings to toggle that off, but we definitely recommend keeping that on, and it's on by default. So what we have now is the landing page design. It's implemented, but none of these options work right now. So now we're going to go back into the index.php file that we've been working on and actually add in and do something with these user-defined variables. And since we copied the background options from the dropcap template, we can actually go into the dropcap index.php file and grab how it's actually implementing those styles as well. So if we go back into the landing page template, into the plugin, into the template files, then into the dropcap template, I'm just going to go ahead and open up the index.php and let's take a look at that. So there you can see the exact same call is being made with the same ID. And again, what's unique about it is the key. The key is identifying this as dropcap and the other one as YouTube lander. So here is actually the rules that we've set up for the background styles. So in the dropdown, if the background style full screen is chosen, set the background style to echo out a full screen background image. If the background style is color, use the background color. If the background style is a tile, do the tile, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and go into our index.php file. And right beneath the variables that we defined, I'm just going to go ahead and paste in this code. So now we're actually defining the, doing some conditional logic based off the user input, just like you would in a normal WordPress template. So let's see how that's implemented. So what it's actually doing, if you scan down the page a little bit in the drop cap index, what you're seeing here is it's actually setting the body to that style. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this as well. And that's why we want to have empty style tags in our template here, because that's where we're going to implement the user-defined styles. So what this will do is actually echo out the specific background style that the user specifies. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we're going to go back into our template and test it out. So if I go ahead and let's choose full color background, I'm going to make the background color red, let's say a bright pink to make it stand out like crazy. And then if we go into the actual page, what you can see is that style is actually implemented into your template. So now you have user-defined styles implementing on the page. So there's a problem here, as you can see, and that problem is it looks like the HTML is actually styled with a white background. So what we're going to do, or it actually has a rule in it. So just go into your CSS, change that out, and boom, now you have a full color background. So I'm going to go into the assets folder, into the CSS, find that HTML rule, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Cut it out. So now that rule is updated and the full screen background works. Let's go ahead and test out the full screen background image. A site I like to use is Pixabay. It's a bunch of Creative Commons images, and I usually try to find something like the beach or something that's super soothing to add as a background image. So I'm going to go ahead and download this background image. Go back into our user settings. I'm going to go ahead and toggle. Let's do the full screen background. I'm going to upload the image. The image is in my downloads folder. Let's go ahead and grab that, drag it into the uploader, and go ahead and insert that into post. So now it's uploaded to the site. Update the page, and let's go take a look. And there we have it, a full screen beach image. So this looks a little pixelated, so we might need a higher resolution background image. But yeah, so that option definitely works. What I'm noticing now is, depending on what background color or image the user chooses, we're actually going to need to implement some color styles for the main headline and the form text. So we're going to go ahead and do that as well. Add in additional options to the config.php file. If you've been watching the template thus far, or the tutorial thus far, thanks for sticking with us. That's, you have a pretty good baseline on how to create templates now. It's setting up the options in that config.php file, calling them out in the index, that prints out all of your HTML and what have you. These files will be available for download in the page here, so you can go refer to them. We're going to go ahead and move a little bit forward with a couple other customizations to this page. So stick around if you want to watch that. If not, definitely drop us a line in the forums if you have any questions, or tweet at me at David Wells on Twitter. And yeah, I'd be more than happy to walk you through how to implement templates and what have you. You can also do this with duplicating your single.php, implementing it into your existing themes. I'm going to make another tutorial video on how to do that. Okay, so anyways, back to the template. What we're going to do is actually add in some text color options. So And again, rather than recreating the wheel, I'm actually going to just copy some rules out of DropCap because there's some text options here as well. There's actually both that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the text color rule from index, drop that into our predefined rules in the YouTube template. So we'll do text size, and we'll also grab the form text color and define those here. So those are defined, but the meta boxes don't exist, so those won't actually work yet. What we'll need to do is go back into the config.php of DropCap and grab those meta boxes. We can write them ourselves, but that just takes too long. So here's the meta box for text color. And you could tell by, there's the label and it'll tell you what it does. And it's also the ID. So the IDs match text-color and text-color. So if we go back into the YouTube template index, so here's all of our meta boxes right now. I'm actually going to add in the text color meta box. And you want to try to order these in the order that the user would actually see them on the page, so it makes more sense. So the text color, I guess it would go after the background images, background settings. So we'll go ahead and do that here. And then one more meta box we want to copy out of here, and that was the form text color. And that's going to be the text color on the actual form. You could just have the one and have it apply to both, the CSS rules apply to both elements, but we'll give them a little bit more flexibility. So if they want to make a different color headline, they can do that. So if I go back into the config file, I'm going to go ahead and copy this and drop that into our config file. Cool. So now we have the text color. You can change the labels as well, like depending on whatever it does. So this is actually the headline text color. I should change the IDs on these. I'm just going to be lazy on that though. Use this to change the templates heading color. All right, cool. And now that's saved. So if I save that, go back into our template, refresh the page, you can see those are our options right now. If I refresh this page, what you can see is now we have headline text color and the conversion area text color. The defaults are not exactly what I want though. I actually want to default these to black. So I'm going to go ahead and update the FFFF hex color to black. And black. So it's 6. You can't use shorthand hex code. You'll have to put in the full, if it's a 3-digit one, use the full hex code and it'll populate. So now we have black and black. Now, additionally, what we want to do is actually implement. So the user can define these. They're defined as variables as well, but those variables are not yet doing anything. So what we want to do is define those in our style. So what we can do, again, is go into that other code and see how it was implemented. So what we have here is if the text color isn't empty, go ahead and add some CSS rules. So I'm going to copy that, paste it into our style tags on the actual page. And then let's see the form text color as well. So if form text color is not empty, do this to the text color. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and paste it right below here. So this is two different syntaxes here just to show you the if statement with the just raw HTML actually echoing out, and then this is actually echoing with the variable in the tag. You can do it either way that you want. And set up these rules any way that you want. The other option is above, like I did here, where I defined the background style as a variable depending on what option is chosen. So what we need to do is change what what element this CSS actually applies to though. So the text spot paragraph, that applies to the DropCap theme. So what we need to do is actually go into the YouTube template and see what this is actually called. I think it's just the regular H1. What we can do is say, let's make the heading wrap. You can be as specific as you want as long as the rule applies, but we're gonna go ahead and heading wrap is this color, and then the form text color. So that's also in the form wrap. So let's just go ahead and grab form wrap. And if the form text color is not empty, we'll go ahead and make the form wrap text color, whatever the user defines. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that. That's updated. And if I go into this page, what we can see here is, so text color black. Let's make the conversion area text color like blue or something, just to show you that it works. Update that, and there you have it. So the text color is blue, the main headline is black. The last thing that we want to do is implement the changing of colors on the submit button, which is the same process of going into the index.php, grabbing that submit underscore button underscore color and echoing that out in a conditional style tag, or you can set it to a variable like above here. This submit button is using hex colors, so there's an additional function to set that up, but don't let that stop you. I'm going to go ahead and upload these files as they are into the template or the tutorial page, and you can download and take a look at this. For the completed template for the YouTube lander page, so I actually got a YouTube lander templates. Those will be in the plugins template section. Some advanced options that I think I'm going to add in is any YouTube embed, it's going to detect the size of the embed and change the width of the background. And I think I'm going to add an autoplay or non-autoplay option to the template, so you can see how I do those in the final version. But as for the tutorial files, they will be uploaded into the tutorial page. So thanks for watching the tutorial video. So what we did was take this static HTML page, which we could make it look exactly like this in the WordPress admin here. This kind of looks, ugly with that background image. But anyways, what we did was implement that static page that only someone that knows HTML could actually edit into a easy to use WordPress landing page. And once it's implemented into the landing page system, basically you can clone the page, set up split testing, and do a number of different things with the landing page, including tracking conversion rates and what have you. So it's definitely a value add to implement some of your landing page templates into the landing page, WordPress Landing Page Framework. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop me a line. Again, I'm at David Wells on Twitter, or you can head into our forums on plugins.inboundnow.com. There's a bunch of documentation that we're working on for developers and designers. And there's also, everything you need to know about the index.php template setup, etc. And there's also a support forum for feature requests and what have you. So if there is, let's say a custom meta box you guys want to implement or anything like that, feel free to drop us a line and we will get on that. Absolutely. Cool.